Today we're putting two of the newest control pads head to head. The brand new MX Creative Console from Logitech versus the Work Louder Creator Micro. And stick around and I'll tell you how you might be able to get one for just $20. Welcome to the Never Ending Weekend. If you're new to this idea of productivity tools, they come with a bunch of different names like Productivity Peripheral, Macro Pad, Hardware Control Device. Possibly the first popular device like this was the Elgato Stream Deck. It became popular with streamers and content creators, people who wanted to switch things on the fly in real time. It's essentially an input device, much like your mouse and your keyboard, but it extends the customizability even further. The ability to customize keys so that they can do whatever you program it to do is a real time saver and a big productivity tool, and they became very popular with the creative crowd. People who use programs like Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, Illustrator, but really it applies to any deep software you can use. Things like Excel or even Word. It's an easy way to access something through a button as opposed to going through a bunch of menus to find that feature you wanted to use. And with the advent of wheels and dials, you can have finer control over those things that you would typically use a mouse or a mouse wheel. It just gives you a little bit more control over what you want to do. It really has, for me, become an indispensable tool that I use for making videos or doing other work. When I was younger, I was one of those guys that would read the manual from beginning to end, just so I didn't miss anything and I knew exactly how to use the device I was about to use. But as I got older, I couldn't be bothered. I'd open the package and then try to use it intuitively and figure out how to use it best for me. So, with my first foray into the space with the Elgato Stream Deck, it just was too many buttons and there was a lot of fiddling to figure out how to map things to the buttons. And it was missing a dial that I especially want to use for editing. So I started looking at other products like the Loupedeck products that they have. And by the way, all the links are in the description if you want to grab one of these things off of Amazon. But what I settled on was the ShuttlePro V2 from Contour. And it was working great for me. It's ergonomically shaped, which I liked. It has 2 rows of programmable buttons at top and some other ones on either side and at the bottom. And unlike the Stream Deck, there's not that many of them, as well as they all feel a little bit different and positioned in a way where you can select a key without looking at the device, which I really like a lot. And right in the center, they have a spring-loaded wheel and a ratcheted jog when you need granular control over something. But one day the configuration got somehow all mucked up and I had to go back and program it, and it was less than intuitive. I just didn't want to put the time into configuring it all over again. And eventually I stopped using it. But going back to the keyboard and mouse had me longing to get back to some kind of peripheral that would help me with these shortcuts. And then along comes the Work Louder Creator Micro. It seemed to have everything I wanted, but as soon as I ordered that, Logitech came out with their own product, the MX Creative Console, with a tight integration to Adobe products, which I happen to use a lot of. So these two devices kind of represent the newest and best pieces of kit you can get right now. So I ordered one of those as well, and we're going to do a comparison between the two and tell you which one is the best to use. Let's look at the Work Louder Creative Console. You can get customizable keys. It looked like something that was really well made. So there's a little bit of a setup QR code. Feels good. You can get the clicky keys or the soft keys. I got the clickety keys because I like the sound matching with the tactile feedback. It's a nice aluminum base with some rubber on it, kind of a frosted polycarbonate surround. A bunch of programmable keys, 4 pages of them, so you get 12 keys per page, and then a dial and a wheel. They have nice feedback on both, kind of a soft click, click, click. A USB-C charging port, and yeah, it's nice. Feels solid. And I think along with your keyboard, it's very customizable, so you can take this whole thing apart if you wanted to. I don't know what reason, but you can. All work and no play. So nice. Put that aside for now. And let's open up the Logitech Creative Console. Now I was kind of really excited about this, only because it looks like they really have integrated themselves with the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. The Creative Console comes in 2 parts. One is the wheel, which is wireless, and the other is the keypad, which is connected through USB-C. And also very nicely built, but I have to say the Work Louder is more sturdier. Has that milled aluminum base. It's weightier. The keys feel a little bit more tactile. There doesn't seem to be any ratcheting system in any of the dials, but that might be in the software. We'll see. But nonetheless, this is pretty well built. Oh, and a base for this, you can have this flat or place it in here and have it angled towards you. Let's install the software and see how it goes. Man, it comes with nothing. It doesn't come with instructions or wire or anything. So make sure you have a spare USB-C wire laying around. Oh, it lights up. Nice backlit. So it gave me a QR code that I scanned and it took me to this website. The heck is this? I don't want to configure a keyboard. So far this is a little bit annoying. So I found the micropad. There it is. This feels like it's going to be heavy too. I mean, it's not a huge learning curve, but it's enough to dissuade me from going further. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of playing Street Fighter. When I was younger, I would learn all the combos and try to be the best at whatever character that I really liked. I like Guile, by the way. But as I grew older, I couldn't be bothered and I would just button smash. Is it button smash or button mash? Button mash. And I couldn't be bothered learning all the different combos and joystick and button combinations. This is what this reminds me of. There's a learning curve figuring out how to map all the buttons. What is kind of cool is this lighting effect thing. It's interesting. It does it all from the web. There's different gradients, different effects, brightness. Let's go blue. I like blue. You can kind of see the light changing behind the keys. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Preset website.
Preset website. Now that's what I like. Okay, here we go. So iPad art. Oh, you can use this with an iPad. Interesting. Procreate. UI UX. See, this is what I like. So they give you a default setting and then you can change one or two or swap them around depending on what you want to use it for. But I guess you'll have to remember all the buttons by memory. They don't give you any stickers or anything in the box. Let's go to the Work Louder website. This is their main device, a customizable keyboard, which could be a whole different video, but I just wanted to show you for the price. I don't know, has some cool features, but really I only wanted a few customizable buttons and some dials. Anyway, so I'm looking for keys here. So yeah, there seems to be preset green printed keys. Icon, Pure, Legend, Daily, Blind is Braille, which is kind of cool. And Dime. It's just nothing. Interesting. So not a lot of customizability there. Okay, let's download the Premiere one. There, now when we go to the key map, that's it. Okay, kind of convoluted. Not loving the complexity, but you know, if you want to spend a little bit of time to configure this, I'm sure it'd be very useful for you. Again, 4 pages of 12 buttons. That gives you, what is that? 48 configurable buttons and the dial and the wheel. Let's try the MX Creative Console. Okay, there's 2 parts here to this one. I love the Logitech devices. I have a MX Master that I've gotten, I don't know how many years ago I got this, but I love their mouses. And like the mouse, it has 3 different configurations, so 3 different users, I guess. Well, that's kind of cool. A little kind of opening animation. Wow, now LCD backed keys. I feel like I would give up the tactility of the Work Louder keys to get LCD keys and be able to customize them any way I wanted to. Okay, where are the instructions? How come no one includes paper instructions anymore? Personally, I feel like the Logitech device is going to be the gateway between this type of peripheral and mass adoption because they're such a big company. They make such good hardware. It's going to bridge that gap between being some kind of esoteric device that only a few people use in a niche way to something that is adopted on a wider scale. Okay, allow. Some icons appeared on the keypad. Wow, automatically changes the keypad's function depending on what you're using. Oh, that makes sense. Similar to all these devices, there's presets or you can change them each. There's a ton of pages, too many in my opinion, to this device, but I guess that makes it very flexible. Here we go. Oh, it tells you which programs you have on the computer already. Interesting. Oh, it's drag and drop. That's cool. Oh, and there's a whole marketplace. Interesting. There's an AI prompt builder. There's a brightness, I guess, for the keys. Settings. Cool. I gotta say, it's a much easier guided customization process than the Work Louder device. But it's also very deep as well. Very configurable. Let's use these in the programs and see how they work. So let's start with Photoshop. The pre-configured profile has a lot already in place, all the popular things. And as you can see, you can go through a lot of menus. So this is the action ring. So you can see the action ring is going through all the layers. We got zoom here, and we have stuff like the paintbrush, and then being able to control the size with the ring, hardness, opacity, as you see here, going up and down. Super powerful. You can use keyboard shortcuts But to tell you the truth, I use so many different programs, whether it's different Adobe products, Figma, and then when you move between Macs and PCs, or me even using a PC keyboard on a Mac, all the keyboard shortcuts change slightly. Like on a Mac keyboard, you have Option and Command, and on a Windows keyboard, you don't have that. You have Alt and the Windows key. So things map slightly different from program to program. Key will be zoom on one program and not on another. So you kind of, or just through physical memory, you go through all these different shortcuts, and you have to kind of go through a bunch to get the right one in the right program. So this, at least, the buttons are always going to be the same for the program. And what's cool about it is that because it has the LCDs behind each button, you can see exactly what you're doing. But the problem I have with these types of things, there's just as high a cognitive load in trying to learn this as opposed to learning the keyboard. And I kind of know the keyboard shortcuts already, so to learn this is just, there's a learning curve. So you have to keep that in mind. Where this really saves time is when you are doing the same kind of repetitive actions over and over again. Like perhaps you like a specific tool or a specific function in a specific program. Like for example, in Premiere Pro, I love ripple delete, and I'm using it all the time. And to have that map to one key instead of either going through the menu or hitting the keyboard shortcut over a certain amount of time, that'd be a real time saver. And you got to remember, it's not only creative programs. You could be using something like Microsoft Excel, and let's say you have a certain function, or you really like to merge cells over and over again. I don't know, whatever it is, you can map it to one key, and that in itself might be a big time saver depending on what your workflow is like. I mean, the keys feel good. I kind of miss the ratcheting of the dial or the wheel. That would be nice. You just have to kind of be a little bit more careful on how much you scroll. So it would have been nice to have that ratcheting effect. I thought maybe it was in the software, but it doesn't seem to be. But yeah, it's great to have these quick buttons. The build quality is good too. It feels nice, quality piece. It's light. This stand is really good. It's really sticky on the bottom, so it doesn't really move. It feels pretty sturdy. You can push on it no problem. Now let's try the Work Louder Creator Micro. The Work Louder setup, there's way more setup to do. And unfortunately, you don't have anything on the screen here. So you can get keys, but then if you map them to something different, the physical keys might not be useful to you or not. I guess you could customize your own stickers, but that will look horrible. So yeah, a lot of mental memory. Oh, so you have to download each preset one at a time. Oh, and then they have a cheat sheet that shows you what each key does. Oh man, how long would it take me to remember all this? Anyway, so I'm loading the file that I just downloaded. It's interesting. I have to go back to the VS software and load and unload presets. You have 4 layers, so essentially you can map 4 different things to each button and maybe cycle through them depending on the program you have. If there's certain programs that you like to use over and over and you don't need more than 12 buttons plus the scroll wheel and the dial. They're nice and ratchety, which I really like, as opposed to the freewheeling turn of the MX console. But the fact that you have to load or unload presets every time you want to use a different program feels like a limiting factor, at least a headache. So what are my final thoughts? I thought these types of products are really good at making you productive and making your workflow much easier and quicker. I think it helps you become more efficient with the software you're using, especially if that software is deep. I do like the Gamer Boy backlighting of the keys and the glowing surround. It's a little bit more fun. The 2 products kind of remind me of Android phones and Apple's iPhone. The Logitech MX Creative Console is a much more curated process. It makes setup very simple. It's easy to use, is a little bit more polished and corporate. Whereas in the Work Louder Creator Micro, it's very modular and tactile, very customizable. It's got this digital coolness about it. The aesthetics of both are very different, but I like them both. The Creator Micro has an advantage over the MX console. They're both built really well, the Creator Micro being a little bit more robust, a little bit heavier, heavy duty. The Logitech is mostly plastic, but well thought through and has a lot of cool little features. The only small little thing is I really wish that they included the tactile feedback of a ratcheting wheel. But really, the MX console is much better thought through. The setup process has been made much easier, especially with its tight integration with Adobe Creative Suite. And the fact that you can see what the buttons are because they're all little LCD screens, that makes it much more usable than the Creator Micro. Other than that, because of the software, because of the ability to see the buttons, I just feel it's a clear winner. Now this is the kicker, and I mentioned this in the beginning of the video. The MX Creative Console from Logitech is selling for $199 right now. But with that, they give you 3 months of free subscription to Adobe's Creative Cloud. So if you were already using Creative Cloud or was about to start using it, it almost pays for itself. Right now, Creative Cloud membership costs $60 US for the whole Creative Cloud suite. So 3 months is $180. The MX Creative Console is $200. It's essentially $20. The Creative Micro is cheaper, $129 right now. But for me, it has less functionality, less practicality. I don't need 15 pages of 10 buttons each. I'm never going to remember all of that. But even if you didn't, the fact that you can accomplish so much with just a push of a button feels like this is a great tool for anybody, for creative content or not. I have links in the description below to the Creator Micro and the MX Creative Console. The MX Console one goes to Amazon, which I think is better because if you want to return it, it's a much easier process than doing it through Logitech. And if you have any questions about either of these products, if you want me to try something or you had a question about it, leave a comment and I'll be sure to respond. Thanks everyone and have a great weekend.